Hey people, this is technically a few days old, but I think that it's important to keep reiterating this news. So, this is US inmates stage nationwide prison labor strike over modern slavery. Organizers say prisoners across the country are expected to refuse to work, hold sit-ins, and even stage hunger strikes. The first part of the prisons likely to be hit will be the kitchens, where stoves will remain unlit, ready meals unheated, and thousands of breakfasts uncooked. From there, the impact will fan out, the laundry will be left unwashed, prison corridors unmopped, and the lawns on external grounds ring-fenced while wire will go uncut. On Tuesday, America's vast army of incarcerated men and women, at 2.3 million of them, they form by far the largest imprisoned population in the world, will brace itself for what is the potential to be the largest prison strike in U.S. history. And I just want to go over that. Largest imprisoned population. America keeps going the land of the free. America has 1% of its population behind bars. Millions more who are faced with restrictions like voting rights restrictions and restrictions on movement and all sorts of things because of their convictions. That's technically more than, as a percentage and as a whole, than North Korea, Iran, China. Ugh. Alright, so 19 days of peaceful protests are planned across the nation, organized largely by prisoners themselves. The strike is being spearheaded by incarcerated members of Jailhouse Lawyers Speak, a group of prisoners providing mutual help and legal training to other inmates. A few days ago, they released an anonymous statement setting out their reasons for calling a protest that carries the risk of substantial penal retaliation. Fundamentally, it's a human rights issue. Prisoners understand they are being treated as animals. Prisoners in America are a war zone. Every day, prisoners are harmed due to the conditions of confinement. For some of us, it's as if we are already dead, so what do we have to lose? Organizers have put together a list of 10 national demands. They include improved prison conditions, an end to life without parole sentences or death by incarceration, as the authors called them, increased funding for rehabilitation services, and an end to the disenfranchisement of some 6 million Americans with felony convictions who are barred from voting. So 1% of Americans are in jail, 2% are just forbidden from voting. So that means that's millions of voters who cannot vote simply because of being convicted or having done a crime at some point. One of the most passionately held demands is an immediate end to imposed labor in return for paltry wages, a widespread practice in U.S. prisons that the strike organizers call a modern form of slavery. More than 800,000 prisoners are daily put to work, in some states compulsory, in roles such as cleaning, cooking, and lawn mowing. A bit more commentary. Now, for people who keep telling black people slavery ended, look at the 13th Amendment. It says that slavery is ended except as punishment for a crime. They literally put that in there so they could then take those same people who went off the plantation, convict them for petty crimes like vagrancy or just whatever they wanted, and then send them straight back to the plantations that they were supposedly free off of. And you now have millions of people, predominantly black people, in jail as slave labor. Or almost slave labor, like just almost nothing. The remuneration can be as awful in states such as Louisiana as 4 cents an hour. Oh my God. The idea that social lowly paid work in a $2 billion industry is equivalent to slavery is lent weight by the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. It bans slavery and involuntary servitude with one vital exception. As punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, prisoners, in other words, have no constitutional rights and can be blatantly exploited. In addition to a refusal to work, inmates engaged with the strike plan to go on hunger strikes, hold sit-in protests, and stage a boycott of commissaries, collect phone calls and other payment streams where private and state-owned companies make money out of them. The boycott was the brainchild of Benu Hannibal Rasoon of the Free Alabama movement under the rubric Redistribute the Pain. He called on fellow prisoners to stop channeling either their own or the relatives' money to what he called the prison industrialized complex. He urged participants to spend 25% of what they save from the boycott on books, such as prison profiteers who make money from mass incarceration. Inmates who join the action know that they face potentially serious consequences. Participants face being placed individually into isolation cells, while past prison strikes have met with lockdowns of entire institutions. Isolation being solitary confinement, no talking, no nothing. Communications, too, are certain to be blocked, leading potentially to a blackout of news on the protest. According to prison reform activists engaged in planning a strike, retaliatory measures have already started. Karen Smith, who runs the Gainesville, Florida chapter of Incarcerated Workers Organizing Committee that is back in the strike, said prison authorities have moved most local strike organizers into solitary confinement wings where they'll be unable to communicate with others. Other inmates have been warned that if they continue to contact advocacy groups, they will be moved to the most brutal camps. Brutal. Also, basically, and I like that they said camps, like concentration camps. So these aren't even jails or institutions anymore. They're just like Nazi Germany, basically. I love how they're just more open about it when people challenge it. It's just disgusting. The strike that comes out 2 years after the last major nationwide prison strike in September 2016 that saw more than 20,000 inmates refuse to show up for work across 12 states. The strike was coordinated out of Homer Prison in Alabama, a state notorious for its overcrowded and dilapidated penal institutions, by a group of inmates styling themselves as the Free Alabama Movement. Okay, this just goes on. So I'm going to leave the link to this story in the description. Please comment, rate, share, and subscribe if you want to support this channel. I'll leave my PayPal there. Peace, family.